Hey everyone, Daniel here, founding sales engineer at Akuity, and I'm excited to share what's new in Argo CD version 3.1. This release brings some significant new capabilities that are going to change how you work with GitOps and Kubernetes. Along with new features, this release comes with a whole slew of security fixes, bug fixes, and general quality of life improvements. Today, we're covering 4 major features that I think you'll find really compelling. First up is OCI support. We're bringing OCI compliant container registry support straight into Argo CD. The same registries you're already using for your container images can now store and distribute your deployment configurations. It's a unified approach to artifact management. We're also introducing direct resource scaling right from the Argo CD UI. This empowers all users of Argo CD to make direct changes to resources like replica sets on the fly using the UI. Just point, click, and scale. Plus, server-side apply now is fully stabilized, and we've added Argo CD CLI plugin support. This release has improvements that are going to make your GitOps workflows smoother and more powerful. So let's dive in and explore what makes Argo CD version 3.1 a solid step forward. Let's start with OCI support. This is a feature that's going to streamline how you manage artifacts. Here's what makes this useful. You're already using container registries for your images, right? Now you can store your Kubernetes manifests in those same registries, following the same standards you already know. This can also be very useful for use cases where your destination environment doesn't have access to Git repositories. So let's hop right into the demo. And what I have right here is a set of Kubernetes manifests. What I'm going to do is I'm going to render the manifest out using Customize, package it into an archive, and then push that artifact into OCI registry using ORAS. All right. So these are the set of Kubernetes manifests right here. It's a basic deployment and a service. And then switching over to my terminal, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this customization command. And what this is doing is it's going to render those manifests in that specific path into another path, down to just one guestbook.yaml file. That's represented right here with the service and the deployment. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and place that file into an archive. So I've generated this archive, and that's going to be the artifact that I'm going to be pushing to my registry. How I'm going to do that is I'm going to be using the ORAS command, and we're going to be pushing to that registry. And we're going to up our version up to 1.0.6, and we'll go ahead and push that. All right, so now we can go into Docker Hub and just validate that that new version bumps up from 1.0.5 to 1.0.6. That's how you push a new artifact into your OCI registry. So going back to Argo CD real quick, and while we're going to input this, did want to go ahead and just highlight what ORAS stands for. So it stands for OCI Registry as a Storage, and OCI stands for Open Container Initiative, which is the standard for container images and registries. So I'll go ahead and from here, deploy that artifact. We're going to go ahead and select new application. We're going to give it a name of guestbook. OCI, use the default project, have it auto create the namespace, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and copy the repository URL right here, and you'll see that Argo CD detected that as an OCI repository. I'm going to go ahead and set my revision to wildcard of any version, and then within that archive, the file was directly archived within its same path. So we're going to go ahead and reference that. Set the destination as the same cluster that I have Argo CD deployed in, along with a namespace. So we'll go ahead and call that and use the guestbook OCI namespace. Create that application. Argo CD's UI already shows that it's an OCI artifact right here that we're going to be deploying. Currently missing and out of sync, and we're going to go ahead and just sync that application so you can see everything working. All right, it was able to deploy that OCI artifact into the destination, Argo CD handling it. So what's really nice here is the consistency, the potential for standardization, and the improved security. So this feature is in beta with version 3.1, and it's a solid foundation for the future of artifact management in GitOps. Next, let me show you direct resource scaling from the Argo CD UI. This addresses a real operational need. So here's a common scenario. It's Friday afternoon, traffic is spiking, you need to scale up your deployment quickly. Traditionally, you'll be jumping between commands, editing YAML files, or even navigating through CI/CD pipelines. But now there's a simpler way. So with Argo CD version 3.1, scaling can work like this. I'm looking at my deployment here in the Argo CD UI. Now, when I click into my deployment options, a scaling interface appears. So I can go ahead and click that and adjust my replica count from 1 to, let's say, 3. Now immediately you'll see that the replica sets have been scaled from 1 to 3. I have 3 pods running in my application now. There it is, a clean, straightforward scaling interface. I can increase, I can decrease the number of replicas for deployments with just an input field, no context switching. This makes Kubernetes operations accessible to your entire team. Anyone can now perform critical scaling operations safely and confidently. It's intuitive, direct, and it gets the job done. Now, let's look at server-side apply migration, which solves a real pain point for teams making this transition. So here's the situation. You've been running Argo CD with client-side apply and have resources that were created with kubectl apply. And now you want to take advantage of functions like server-side apply's superior conflict resolution and field management. The challenge? Resource ownership conflicts, field management issues, migration complexity. Argo CD version 3.1 addresses this directly. We now support client-side apply migration, which handles the transition from client-side apply to server-side apply smoothly. So here's how it works. First, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and apply a deployment into my cluster. So now I've created this guestbook application. What I want to do next is I want to go ahead and just take a look at the YAML that was deployed and see what it's currently being managed by. If I take a look at this YAML right here, you're going to see all the various annotations right here. And what this represents is that currently it's being deployed, managed by kubectl itself. Now, just switching over to the Argo CD UI, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a new application and have it take over that existing application. So I'm going to go ahead and call this guestbook. And I've already created a repository with that same manifest that I deployed earlier. So we're going to use the default project name. We're going to use server-side apply. And I'm going to go ahead and paste in that repository. Have the manifest within the guestbook path. And then for the destination, I'm going to deploy it into the same cluster, into the default namespace where that application currently is deployed as well. Now, once I create this, you're going to see it's out of sync, but it detects that existing application. So now I can go ahead and sync the application to Argo CD's application. And now, whenever I go ahead and query the same result from get deployments and look at that YAML, what I'll notice based off of the annotations is that now Argo CD has ownership of this application. There's also flexibility here. So you can specify your own field manager to migrate from using an annotation. Maybe you have other operators that are no longer in use and you want Argo CD to take ownership of all their fields. That's all supported. So server-side apply is now fully stabilized and the migration path is straightforward. Here's something that's going to extend Argo CD's capabilities: CLI plugin support. If you're familiar with kubectl's plugin ecosystem, you know how useful this concept is. The Argo CD CLI now supports the same plugin mechanism, which opens up possibilities for customization and automation. Think about your unique workflows, your specific organizational needs, custom integrations. Now you can extend Argo CD CLI to handle that. Let me go ahead and show you that. So right here, what I have pulled up are the docs, which show an example plugin that you can create. So what you do is you create the plugin, make sure you name it with the naming convention of Argo CD - plugin name, and then make the plugin executable. Place it anywhere within your path, and then now you can invoke your plugin as an Argo CD command. So I've already created a plugin called Dan, and I'm going to go ahead and execute that right now. There you have it, running a plugin through the Argo CD CLI. What makes this really valuable is the extensibility. It's not just about convenience commands, but it's about building custom solutions, specialized reporting, custom deployment workflows, integration with your internal tools, and now all of this can be packaged as Argo CD plugins. Plugin architecture is solid, integration is clean, and there's a lot of potential here for community contributions as well. Now, I do want to call out some other notable features in this release as well, such as hydrator improvements, explicit autosync configuration, skip dry run on missing resource, application sync options, app set progressive sync, major UI improvements, along with cooldowns to prevent resetting auto heal back off preemptively. These improvements show what happens when you combine deep Kubernetes expertise with thoughtful user experience design. Every interaction is designed to make your GitOps workflow much more efficient. And that's Argo CD version 3.1, everyone. We covered features that represent real progress in GitOps tooling, OCI support that unifies artifact management, UI scaling that makes Kubernetes operations more accessible, server-side apply migration that simplifies complex transitions, and CLI plugins that enable custom solutions. What I appreciate about the release is that it's built by the community for the community. Every feature we discussed came from real user needs, real production challenges, real collaboration between contributors like companies like Akuity, Intuit, Deutsche Bank, and many others. Special shout out to Blake, Michael, Ratul, Atif, Peter, Nitish, Pasha, Shomo, Regina as well. So this is the strength of open source GitOps. This is what the Argo community does well, and there's more coming. So download Argo CD version 3.1, try these features in your environment, share your feedback, join our community discussions, contribute your ideas, and help us continue building better GitOps tools. From all of us at Akuity and the Argo community, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next release.